Hi everyone, welcome back. It's time for us to read chapter 6 today of The Secret Dragon by Ed Clarke. So let us find out what happens next. Chapter 6. The schoolyard of Llanwerith Primary was perhaps the one place Mary liked even less than the farmyard. It wasn't that she minded if no one wanted to sit next to her. It wasn't even that Fionn thought it was funny to pretend that she was being electrocuted every time Mary brushed past her. It was more that no one seemed to care about anything that really mattered, yet they all seemed to care about everything that didn't. So Mary didn't think there was much point in trying to fit in. Today, however, Mary had a secret that would keep her company all day. She strode confidently into the playground, safe in the knowledge that the second half of the day would more than make up for anything bad that the first half could throw at her. Her daydream was interrupted by the sound of a slamming car door and a stifled argument. It was the boy from the beach. His dad was dropping him off in a bright yellow estate and seemed insistent on kissing him goodbye. "Have a good day, Dylan." Dylan was obviously too mortified to respond. Fortunately for him, though, Mary was the sole witness to the scene. She took her usual seat, next to no one, and began happily doodling a fossil on the cover of her workbook. "Nice bug. Is someone sitting here?" Inevitably, it was Dylan. "It's a trilobite," replied Mary, "and no, it's not a seat that someone sits in." He looked confused. "You mean it's broken or something?" "No, it's just not a seat that people seem to like," Mary clarified. "But I like that it's empty." "Does that mean I can or I can't?" "Suit yourself," she replied. Dylan looked around the class, but there were no other free places. He lowered himself down gingerly, like he half expected the chair to give way beneath him. "I'm pretty sure it's safe," said Mary, as he settled in, "though I've never tested it." She glanced up to see Fionn and her friends casually turning around to look the new boy up and down. "Hi there," Fionn said to him. "I wouldn't sit too close to her," she continued, nodding at Mary. "Could be dangerous. You know what happened to her dad." Fionn opened her eyes wide and started to shake as if she'd stuck her finger in an electric socket. Her cronies all laughed as they turned back, but Mary was unmoved. She'd seen this routine all before. Dylan threw her a puzzled look. Mary sighed. "My dad died when he got struck by lightning, and Fionn thinks she's being so clever." "I'm sorry to hear," he began. "But then she's the only vegan who believes pork sausages are meat-free because that's what her dad told her," Mary said. "I heard that, Mary Jones," said Fionn. "He is the butcher and he would know." Mary raised an eyebrow at Dylan before Mr. Pugh, their form teacher, broke in. "Listen up, everyone. I'd like to say hello to Dylan Moss, who's just moved here from Cardiff." "Hello, Dylan," droned the class. Dylan offered a sheepish wave in return. "I'm sure Year 6 will make you feel very welcome," concluded Mr. Pugh. "Oh, you can be sure they will," murmured Mary under her breath. Dylan turned to her for a second, but Mary wasn't about to elaborate. So instead, he took out a pair of reading glasses and put them on. "For the straight chips," he said, turning back to face the front and pushing the spectacles up the bridge of his nose. Mary wasn't sure if he was teasing her again, but it didn't matter. She had more important things on her mind. When the bell rang for lunch, it was even more blessed relief than usual. Mary raced out of the school gates and ran full pelt for the train station. The 12:56 to Cardiff was just about to close its doors as she arrived, and she jumped through the gap straight into a seat. Mary put her bag on her lap and hurriedly unzipped it. She hadn't been able to check on the dragon all morning for fear of someone seeing her. She quickly glanced around the carriage to make sure no one was watching, before carefully lifting out the ice cream container and peeling back the lid. The little dragon looked up at her a little drowsily and stretched out its wing. Mary checked the little bit of sponge she had soaked with water for it to drink. It was untouched, as were the leaves she had put there too, in case it got hungry. Mary eyed the tiny creature nervously. Had she given it the things it needed? Was it getting enough air? To be on the safe side, she grabbed a pen from her pencil case, stuck down the lid of the box again, and began stabbing at the top to make some more holes. "That's better," she thought, unpeeling the lid to see if the dragon seemed any perkier. Instead, it was cowering in fear in the corner of the box. "I'm so sorry," she hissed, suddenly realising how scared it must have been watching a spike breaking repeatedly through the roof. Mary sighed. She wasn't a natural at this at all. To make matters worse, she realised that a woman sitting slightly further down the carriage had been watching her. When Mary turned round, she hastily buried her face into her book, but Mary couldn't help wondering if she had caught a glimpse of the dragon. The sooner she got to Dr. Griff, the better. 30 minutes later, the train was pulling into Cardiff Central Station. The doors weren't even properly open before Mary was out. It was 20 to 2, and somehow she had to get to the hotel where the conference was taking place, find the room where Dr. Griff was making his speech, and share the discovery of a lifetime with him before he started at 2 o'clock. She skidded out of the station onto the streets of Cardiff, having asked a gruff ticket inspector for directions. The city was bursting with people, and she had to dodge and weave past them all. Mary finally found the hotel, though. It was an enormous, modern, high-rise building that loomed over her like an angry teacher, just waiting for her to get something wrong. She felt a sudden anxiety that this was a really stupid idea. But she took a deep breath, pushed her worries aside, and pressed on. Inside, the hotel was even more imposing than its exterior had suggested. A smartly dressed young man stood behind a whitewood desk in the middle of the lobby, gazing into a silver laptop like it was a crystal ball. Mary coughed, trying to get his attention. He didn't look up. "I'm looking for the Progressive Paleontology Conference," she said, in a deep and confident a voice as she could muster. The man still didn't look up. He just pointed up the grand staircase at the end of the hall, while tapping on the keyboard with his other hand. "Staircase, turn right, lift to the 8th floor, Rosilli Suite." Mary waited for a second, just in case he was going to say anything else. But he wasn't. She ran across the lobby and took the stairs 2 at a time. She slid to a halt by the lifts and hammered the button to call one down. Come on," she urged under her breath, whacking the button again for good measure. She looked at her watch. It was 1:55. It wasn't looking good. "Going up?" came a voice from her left. Mary looked round to see a young, smiling woman holding the doors open to the lift that she hadn't noticed. She was wearing a black sleeveless t-shirt with a picture of 2 dinosaur skeletons playing the guitar, underneath which it said Monsters of Rock. Mary gratefully leapt into the lift and hit the button for the 8th floor. "You here for Griff?" asked the woman. Mary nodded. "You might be waiting a while." "What do you mean?" asked Mary, as the lift pinged open on the 8th floor to reveal a sea of people. Her heart sank. They were all queuing to get into the Rosilli Suite, half of them carrying dinosaur hunter books. She slumped back against the wall in defeat. What was she even doing here? The woman from the lift turned to her with a smile. "Doesn't mean you shouldn't try," she said. Mary nodded her thanks and pushed her way past the throng to the front of the queue, where another woman with a clipboard was guarding the entrance to the suite, crossing people's names off as they come in. She was wearing a name badge that said Sandra. She smiled down at Mary, not because she meant it, but because that was part of her job. "Can I help you at all?" she asked, her fixed grin hardly moving. "Yes," replied Mary. "I have something very important to show Dr. Griff." "Do you have a ticket for the talk?" "I'm sorry, no, I don't." "Well, if you would be so kind, I'm afraid that I have to look after the people that do," said Sandra, turning away from Mary and back to the queue. "But it's really important," said Mary, "like incredibly important." Sandra ignored her completely, continuing to tick people off of her list. Mary tugged the woman's clipboard to get her attention. This did not go down very well. "Dr. Griffiths is on a very tight schedule, and today is not a school visit. So if you would be so kind," and Sandra wrestled her clipboard back. "But I have to tell him about something that will change history," insisted Mary desperately, ripping the ice cream container out of her bag, peeling back the lid and brandishing it dramatically at the woman like she was letting loose of all the demons of hell. Despite herself, Sandra couldn't help but peer into the box. Mary waited for her expression to change from anger to sheer amazement, but instead her lips pursed in disgust. "You want to show him a dead newt?" "What?" Mary turned the box round to face her. The guiba lay on its side, eyes closed, its wings tucked tightly into its body, and it wasn't moving. At all. Oh dear, perhaps Mary doesn't quite know how to take care of the creature after all. You'll have to come back tomorrow for chapter 7 and find out if she can save him. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.